Have you ever wondered how AI can actually be helpful more than just a chatbot? We have seen a recent improvement in AI applications that they extend their capability by integrating different tools. This includes, for example, search calling or retrieving information or accessing different APIs such as like weather or looking at your calendar. So we want to talk that how we can standardize this kind of connection and make it specific for LLM. That's where the MCP come from. So in late 2024, Anthropic introduced this new protocol that enables connection with LLMs in a more streamlined manner. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what is this MCP in a very simple form and how is it different from the API. Welcome everyone to our channel, AI Fun Fact for All. For those of you who are new to this channel, my name is Pedro Magan. I have a PhD in computer science, and in this channel we talk about AI and machine learning and how we can use it in order to improve our efficiency. As we mentioned, we want to talk about MCP, a new protocol that is used to empower LLM and make the standard connection possible. So we want to look at it from an analogy in here that I really like, which is like USB-C. When you want to connect your computer to, for example, different peripherals, such as, for example, your speaker, your mouse, keyboard, or other things, there are different ways that you can do, but you can kind of standardize this connection and only use, for example, a USB-C or USB that you can basically streamline any sort of different connection and you can basically communicate with the other components. So that's where the concept of MCP come from, because we might have separate different tool calling, and in order to make sure that we can connect with every one of them, we don't want the LLM to actually know exactly how to talk. Originally, we saw that connection to the large language models was very ad hoc and it requires so many complexity. It needs to understand the same protocol, and we want to provide this standard connection through the MCP that acts as a medium in here, and then every other component can actually connect to the MCP. So drawing parallel from the UBCC analogy, we can conclude that the MCP is actually a UBCC for AI. So we want to use this model context protocol, which is basically the MCP itself, that will enable us to connect to different AI applications. And as you can see in here, this UBC can connect to the LLM, which is actually our main control unit, and then different AI applications, the external data services, different tools, and so on can actually connect to that. In order to fully understand how MCP works, we need to kind of know a little bit about how API or any client server architecture work. So in terms of architecture, we have a MCP host that is basically your app or your basically LLM that you have on the top, and then you have a protocol or basically the standard way of communication, and after that you have your MCP servers. So the servers are basically the different data sources or function callings or tools that you can use, which in parallel to the UBCC analogy, that's going to be your monitor, keyboard, and so on. So the server are technically your different capability that can be numerous, and then those are your MCP servers, and then you have your MCP host, which is basically your LLM, and you want to make this connection. And the main goal is that you want to get the context, because that's what's really important for LLM, to be aligned and get the information, so accessing the resources and data that are available, and also you want to use the tools that are available, and you don't want every time that a new tool becomes available, you need to kind of onboard it to this connection to the LLM. You want this to be completely taken care of via the MCP protocol, and then if and also the host itself doesn't really need to know much about what is happening behind the scene on the very low level of each of the servers. For example, how the authentication works, how they are actually getting the information. You may already be familiar with API, but I want to give you a very short context in here. API is a way that you talk or communicate between softwares and you share data. So for example, you want to connect to a payment service, for example PayPal or so on, and you want to connect your website to that to enable basically the purchase. How you do it is usually, because these are completely two different services, how you make this communication to share data between each other is going to be via the API. In terms of the architecture, is going to be very similar to what we discussed in the MCP, which is basically you have a host, and then you have a protocol, and then you have your different servers. In this case, it's going to be the payment service. But what's different is that protocol. So the protocol, there are so many different ways that an API can work. One of the very popular one is basically RESTful API. That is our common HTTPS connection. This includes the common actions like get if you want to retrieve information, post if you want to put some information, put if you want to update, and finally the delete operation. So that's how you can communicate, and then you can retrieve the information in a JSON format. What makes us different is that we don't necessarily need to let the LLM know about what are the functions available. That can be automatically done through something called the dynamic self-discovery. So usually when you add a new API, you need to kind of onboard it into your tech stack. So for example, this is a new API that's available for me. Okay, how I'm gonna use this information and how I'm gonna manage it. But for LLM, what is different is that can be done completely automatically. So instead of reorganizing and each time you onboard a new API, that can be done through the self-discovery, which means that each time on demand, in the fly, on the runtime, it can access the list of the different primitives. So a recap on the comparison of MCP and API is that MCP is purpose-built, which is only for AI as we mentioned, but APIs are general built. Then we have a dynamic discovery, which we don't need to onboard each time, but this one is static. We need to update if there is a new API. And then also we have a standard interfaces, but this API has unique interfaces and can include different languages, but there we obviously have one standard language. But what's really important is that the MCP and API have some similarity and have some differences, but on the core, the MCP usually is implemented by having an API under the hood. So basically, pretty much an MCP is a wrapper around an already existing API. So basically, what will happen is that it translates the different capabilities coming from the APIs into the language, the natural language that basically the LLM understands, and it converts it to some API language, so whatever language that API is generated in. So it is AI friendly, but at the same time it can be easily integrated into currently a stack of tools that we have, because already we have so many APIs that are available. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, generate from the beginning. We just want to create an extra layer of abstraction that comes on top of API and enable this connection through the MCP protocol. And there you have it, guys. We went over MCP protocol and we compare it against API, and we saw that how is it specific for LLMs and how it makes the process of integrating into other tools streamlined. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like it. More importantly, subscribe to the channel so you get more updates. If you want to see more videos like this, I've created this video that I talk about the difference between AI agents and AI tools, and you will understand that how you can make the AI agent possible. Or you can watch this video that I talk about how you can grade AI, the different ways to evaluate your LLMs. Thanks for watching and see you until the next one.